port of Mombasa towards the Great Lakes region now will have the transition from the standard gauge railway and move on to the meter gauge railway onwards to the western parts of the country, onto Uganda, Rwanda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. And in Diani, we have got the Agnes conference being held in honor of the late cross-country champion who was brutally murdered in a suspected case of gender-based violence at her home in Iten. The conference has been organized by the State Department for Sport, and our reporter Anburu is there, and she's going to be giving us links on that, and later she will be speaking with the Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Culture and the Arts, Ambassador Amina Mohammed. So the level playing field in sport is going to be there, and there's going to be capacity building training for athletes and sports officials, and also a report on gender equity drafted by the Committee on Gender Welfare and Equity in Sports, formed by Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed, is going to be launched at that conference. So that's on News Outlook that we have got for you today, and we shall be teaming up with our reporters who are out there doing the stories for us, State House, in Naivasha, in Mombasa, and around the country as this program continues. Our sign language interpreter is Lucy Mwaura. So let us now get into our first conversation, and it is about the sport that in 2008 was referred to as a game of gentlemen, played by gentlemen, and I think 6 or 7, and then in 2018, the same person who said that went and asked, you know, for us who are in football, when we see these boards and you're telling people to stay silent, then we will ask you, who are you? We're talking about golf and the magical Kenya Open. It's the region's premier professional event. It's part of the European Tour, and it's got a huge prize fund, 1.75 million euros. We're talking about 227 odd million shillings. And we've got the general manager of the tournament organizers, Kenya Open Golf Limited, Vincent Wang'ombe, with us this morning. Vincent, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yes, I know, I was referring to the former Prime Minister, so you know
yes,
that.
Yes, I was there when you say that, and I remember that statement.
Yeah, and everyone had their chuckle about that. But let's start with the organization of this event. It's a European Tour event. What were the learning lessons from the magical Kenya Open last year and the Kenya Savannah Classic for the organizers?
Okay, so one slight change this year. The European Tour have a sponsor.
Yeah, DP Tour.
So it's DP World Tour. So the entire series this year is being called the DP World Tour. So yeah, we are preparing for it, and everything is going according to plan. Many lessons from last year, and of course with the COVID that is with us, we are doing it in a different way. The Kenya Open and the Kenya Savannah Classic were the first events to be held in Kenya, using the COVID protocols, and we sort of like set up the guidebook for how to run events with COVID. So I think that's one of the major learnings, but on the technical side, we keep learning from the European Tour team, and we will be going ahead to make sure that this event is a great success.
It was a 10-day bubble.
Yes.
For all those who are participating. Yeah. What was that experience for the people who are staying at the hotel and going to Karen back to the hotel in that format?
I'll tell you from my point of view. I, live in Nairobi, and I was staying in a hotel because I had to be in a bubble as a tournament referee as well. So all the officials, all the players, caddies had to be in a bubble, and we had what we're calling a buddy group. So if, for example, you are my buddy, you are the only person I was allowed to sit with without a mask. So, for example, eating or having a drink, but we're not allowed to stay with anybody else. We are social beings, so it's important for us to have that conversation. So we're not allowed to interact with other people. I was only calling my family at home while at the hotel. So for the 10 days, actually 14 days in the hotel was a new experience, running the tournament that way, but it had to be done that way so that we made sure that we protected not just our families, but also the people who are visiting. And the other thing that we also did was we got tested every 2 or 3 days. And if my buddy or I got tested positive, me and my buddy would actually have to leave. So for the players, it was very important also. So if a caddy tested positive, it meant the player
was out of the tournament.
And his buddy also out of the tournament. Yeah.
Wow. That it was quite an interesting experience. And from the leaderboard, I don't think and what was the reaction from the European Tour organizers to how you managed that tournament? And I'll make a reference because over the past few days, I mean, everyone's been making noise about the AFCON in Cameroon and Europeans saying this. What was their reaction?
They were very pleased. In fact, you know, with all the challenges that we had in running the tournament with the bubble and all that, they were very pleased with how things turned out. We were able to provide everything that they required. Of course, there were a few people who tested positive during the tournament, and unfortunately they had to be asked to leave. But all in all, the tournament went very well. On the technical side, from you know, for us, hole 1 to 18, that's the most important thing, and we were very pleased that everything went smoothly, the timing went well. The only hitch we had was the live TV, and we are actually making sure that this time round we monitor that they actually bring the equipment on time.
Yeah, and that bizarre case of somebody who decided to go to visit some relatives in Maputo and delayed the equipment.
It wasn't a visit, really. It was actually they were forced by the weather to actually dock at Maputo. So that's why the delay in getting the equipment in. So hopefully this year we'll not have any issues, and we'll have everything running, you know, like clockwork.
Now, well, the other tournament that you do organize as a Kenya Open Golf Limited is the Safari Tour, and there are 3 more legs to be played. There's next weekend is at Limuru, then you've got Karen.
This weekend.
Actually, this weekend. Yes. This weekend, Limuru, then Karen, and then Muthaiga.
Yes.
3 more events.
Yes.
How has this been organized differently after what you picked up from the Savannah Classic and the Kenya Open last year?
So the only thing that we did slightly different was on you know, the COVID protocols, making sure that the players are protected and that we don't take anything you know, to chance. But we've run the tournaments just like we've had in the past, trying to build the status of the Safari Tour so that it becomes the African tour. That's our aim, basically, to grow it into an African tour.
Well, and I want to come up to that because it's something that was mentioned last year. Let's just revisit this. You want this event to have World Golf Ranking.
Yes.
What is the procedure to have that, to achieve that?
So we have a list of about 15 conditions that the official World Golf Ranking have given us, and some of them we've already ticked. You know, like the way we run the technical aspect of running the tournament with the referees who are qualified, and you know, the tournament administration side, that is done. The next thing we need to do is raise the prize money. So we need to get an average of about 3 million shillings as prize money. And
that's per leg?
Per event, yes.
Per event?
Yes. Yeah, so per leg we need to have that. Actually, it's $30,000 US dollars. We need to have a field of about 80, but we know if we get the money up, we'll get the players. We're already averaging about 65, 70 right now. So we are hopeful that with the prize money and a few other things that we need to do, we will be able to have, you know, we'll be able to join the official World Golf Ranking. We've given ourselves 2 years. So in the next 2 years, we hope to actually get onto the official World Golf Ranking. And one of the other things that we have to have is a live leaderboard. A technical system that will be able to give a live leaderboard and give statistics for players. I mean, if you go to the European Tour site, you'll be able to see how the players have been playing, how, you know, which events they participated in. You'll be able to see, if you want to see how Kenya Open, who won the Kenya Open, or you want to see what Dismas Indiza played in the year 2000,
the records are there.
The records are there. So those are the kind of things that we need to do.
Now, the other one that you mentioned about that is that the prize money was set at 2 million shillings.
Yes.
And there is a distribution. You could just explain that little bit of it. So, because at times people get confused. There is the performance bonus and there is the defined prize money.
Okay. So, technically, I mean, we always have distribution of the prize fund. So, if we have a field of, say, 60 entering a tournament, and we usually take the top 20 who get into the money list.
That's brutal by any standard.
So that's what it is. Yeah. So we will be probably raising that when we get to the $30,000 US. We'll probably raise that to about 30 or 40, depending on the field that we're getting. But the top 20 basically are the ones who get the money. So the distribution is usually 15% for the number one, and then goes reducing 10% for number two, and goes reducing with the last guy getting about 1% or less than 1%. And but what we did is, since we want to see our guys playing better, it's not enough for somebody to come and just play lead and realize, oh, I'm leading, there's no way I'm getting caught. We want our guys to play under par. And internationally, we are not playing as well as, guys say from South Africa. And under par is usually one of the things that we need to be doing to be able to compete at that level. So we decided to put an incentive. Yeah. So 70% of the money. So, we are looking at 1.4 million for the 2 million pass. 70% goes into that distribution.
That is defined and is standard. That
is standard. So the top 20 guys will have that. Now, we have the other bit, which is the under par bonus, which is 20%. So anybody who plays, all the people who play under par rounds get into that bracket. So for 20% of that money is basically distributed around the guys who play under par rounds. And then we have another 10% for those who have played 3 under or better. Yes. So we have all that defined. Now, for the money that will be left over from that last bit, because for those who don't play under par, there's what has been allocated to them. If they don't get it, all that money is pushed forward to the final event, which will be at Muthaiga. Yes. Wow,
very interesting. And just to mention is that one person who's taken who actually has enjoyed a full pay day, I think it's Justice Madoya after the Uganda Open.
Justice Madoya did that, and we've also had Robson Chinoi and a few other players. They've actually been able to get the underpower bonus. Mohit Medirata, I think, and Edwin Mudanyi. Those, we are getting better scores. We are seeing a lot more better scores as we go along.
Well, you mentioned the performance levels and how it comes. Last year, only 2 Kenyans made cut. David Waku at the Savannah Classic and Samuel Njoroge at the Magical Kenya Open. Cut was at -2. How has this grown? Because you also have a requirement that if you play 14 over on day one, that's the end of the event for you.
So what we've put that as our condition. That if you play 86 or worse on day one, you don't play even day 2. So you don't even get to participate. And one of the things that we have realized is the quality of play with some of these conditions that we have put is getting better. And we've got a lot of criticism from different quarters for what we are doing, and as you rightly said, brutal. That's a word you used. A lot of people are thinking we are being very brutal when it comes to performance. But think about it this way. If we're going to raise our standards, we have to make sure that we are able to separate the wheat from the chaff. We have to get our best players, and guys have to be psyched up to play under par. And that's the only way that we are going to do this. And one of the things that we have our sights on, and that's a long-term plan, is get a Kenyan playing in the Olympics in 2028. And since it's pros who play these tournaments, the Olympics, we have to make sure that we build the quality, and the official world golf ranking is one of the things that we need to do for our players to be able to get good ranking to play in that tournament.
You're talking about a Kenyan getting into the top 60 in the world, because that's the selection criteria for the Olympics.
Actually, it's not top 60. I mean, if you look at some of the players, they're actually top 300. It's actually
because of the country allocations.
Exactly.
That's why it comes down.
And that's why we're saying one player. We are not being too ambitious to get somebody in the top 60. We're just saying we'll get somebody in the top 300. Right now, our best players are, 1,200 and something. Yeah, so nowhere near. But we need to be able to get our players at that level. And for that reason, we are very focused on making sure that the performance level is getting better. And we're seeing that the more the money, we are seeing more players coming from the rest of Africa. Zimbabwe, I mean, I mentioned Robson Chinoy from Zimbabwe.
Yes.
We have Andrew Odo from Nigeria. These are players who are coming and, taking breakfast from our boys here. So it's important that we raise our standards, not by protecting our guys, but by making sure that they can actually play to the same level as the best guys in Africa.
Of which now it comes to the Kenya Open at this end of the Safari Tour. At the moment, top on the leaderboard, let me just go through this. After the Uganda Open, at the top is Dismas Indiza, Mzee wa Kazi. He's at the moment, he's got the ranking points at the top. Then Robson Chinoy, then Simon Gige, Eric Oko, Greg Snow, David Waku, Samuel Njoroge. We've got Edwin Mudanyi and now Mohit Medirata. I want to, first of all, look at the criteria of how you weight it.
Okay.
The points from 2021, 2022, 70%. That's how they count.
Yeah.
The previous season takes 20%, and then you've got 10% from 2019, 2020. How does then this weighted average work for a golfer?
So one of the things that we, after a lot of discussion, we realized, yes, we are attracting players from not just Africa. We're even getting inquiries now from Spain, Portugal, and the UK. Actually, I think Karen and Muthaiga will have some players from the UK. We are looking at also getting people who've been participating for long, carrying forward points from the previous season, so that they have a bit of a cushion from, top talent that comes from the rest of the world. So the more, as I said, the more we get our prize pass going up, the more we are going to get players coming in from the rest of the world. And for us to be on the official world golf ranking, we cannot discriminate. So this is the only legal way of discriminating and saying, you've been participating in our tournaments, yes, you'll be able to carry points forward. So the Kenyans, we allowed 8 slots as per the DP World Tour regulation. So we allowed 8 slots for the nationals. Yes.
And that's just the professionals only?
Yes, that's the professionals
The total
only.
field?
So total field 156. 6 amateurs out of that. We allowed 8 nationals and 8 invites. And out of those 8 invites, we have to have sponsors invites. We have to have 2 who are part of the DP World Tour. So for the Safari Tour members who are not Kenyan, we are actually assuring them that 2 will get a slot. And we may go to 3 if we don't get too many demands from our sponsors in terms of the sponsor slots.
So already I can see who? Robson Chinoy,
and
Paul Chidale of Malawi.
Yes.
And probably Andrew Odo.
Yes. So those are the top 3. And there's, I think, Abe Bagalana from Uganda, who's also not too far off.
Yes.
Yeah. Or Adewa Kope.
Okay. Yeah, actually, if I just basically looking at this, who's the highest ranked Ugandan? Ronald Rugumayo.
Oh, okay. So surprise. I actually thought it was Abe Bagalana. Yeah, but anyway, that's basically how we will be selecting the players. So 8 Kenyans, 2 or 3 non-Kenyans from the Safari Tour, and then we have the sponsors invite. So for example, if you remember in 2019, we had a Korean,
yes,
Hosung Choi. That was, from Magical Kenya. KTB told us, we're interested in this market. Are you able to get in somebody? Because the moment you get somebody from that market, the eyes from the tourists or the potential tourists are on that player, and that's basically what happens. So if you look at the distribution of worldwide coverage and where people are watching, it basically follows the players that we have on the field.
Wow, that's very interesting. And as you mentioned about 6 amateurs, so far we only know of 3.
Yes.
There's John Legirma.
John Legirma was the Kenya Amateur Match Play champion.
Yes.
And Adel Balala, who won the Kenya Amateur Stroke Play. Now, Adel Balala also went on to win the Kenya Amateur Golf Championship, the whole series. So we gave the next, KG gave the next slot, the person who was second, and that is Michael Karanga. Michael Karanga is the 3rd amateur. So the other 3 will be announced at the Sigona Bowl this weekend. Wow. After the Sigona Bowl this weekend. So we'll have 2 juniors and 1 wild card. Yeah.
Well, I was actually coming to that. And as before we move on, to how the Muthaiga tournament is going to be organized and that, the case of Wahu and Njoroge, they do not have the pleasure of direct qualification.
No.
As was previously, where those who made cut would get direct entry.
No. So for us, it's very important that your current form dictates if you're able to get the slot or not. So in the past, what PGK would do is they had their own qualification, and they really didn't have many tournaments. We're trying to increase the number of tournaments and the way, have a different way of ranking, which is above board. So you see, if a player, I'm not saying Waku or Njoroge are not playing well, but imagine if they knew that they were qualified to play in this year's Kenya Open. They probably not work as hard. And you may find that by the time they're getting there, their form is not as good. So we don't want that to happen with the Safari Tour. So that's the current form is actually most important when it comes to who we put, to play in the tournaments.
When the Kenya Open was part of the Challenge Tour,
yes,
there were collaborations with other, say, the Sunshine Tour and that. What are the opportunities, collaborative opportunities now that would be available for Kenyan pros?
Actually, with the Challenge Tour, what would happen was a bit of horse trading. So the tournaments that, we'd have a lot more slots. So we had about, I think, was it 15 invites or something like that, 26 locals or 20-something locals, and we had a lot more leeway to invite other players. So Sunshine Tour would come to us and tell us, hey, please give us slots for these 4 or 5 guys, and we'll give you 4 slots for your guys on the Sunshine Tour. And that's the beauty of the Challenge Tour. There's not that much competition for slots. And, you'd also get guys like, say, the PG of China or India writing to Kenya and saying, hey, if you give us 2 slots, we'll give you 2 slots for tournament. And that's basically the kind of horse trading that would happen with the Challenge Tour because of the number of slots that we were able to have. So one of the things that we are keen to do as we move forward, we would like to get a bit more collaboration with the Challenge Tour. And it's our hope that we will have another 1 or 2 other Challenge Tour events. You see, Kenya Open is already in the European Tour. We hope to have 1 or 2 other events in the Challenge Tour. So basically, Magical Kenya Open and Savannah Classic in the European Tour, and have other tournaments which are part of the Challenge Tour.
But tell us about the Savannah Classic. What's on with the tournament?
So unfortunately this year we're not able to have it. So we're not going to have this Kenya Savannah Classic. But it is our hope that in future we'll be able to have this Kenya Savannah Classic as part of the European Tour. And it's all dependent on sponsorship. We're looking to, raise money, as you rightly said, 1.75 euro price pass is just what we are required to raise for just the prize pass. But there's also a lot of other, costs that are tagged to the event. Food, preparation, all that has to be done.
And now, let's come to the selection of courses where you can play a tournament of this level. Which are the ones that are available in Kenya? Because you already know of Karen. That's why you've had the European Tour event so far, and Muthaiga is hosting this year. So
the European Tour have their staging team, which has gone round different courses, had a look, and identified which courses can potentially host the Kenya Open. And the 5 that were identified at the time were Muthaiga, Karen, Limuru, Sigona, and Windsor. But there was a certain condition. The other courses were given. Muthaiga and Karen are ready, but you see, for the European Tour, Muthaiga and Karen don't have sufficient range. The practice range. So for the Karen, when we hosted it at Karen, we had a place where we were able to have a range outside the club. And with Muthaiga this year, we're actually going to have the range at the Kenya Forestry Services grounds, which is
just right across that drift.
Exactly, a short distance. In fact, as the crow flies from the gate of Muthaiga to where the range is, it's only 800 yards. Yeah, so that's a short distance for that. For us to have the range. So the other courses also have their conditions. Limuru has a few things that they need to do: equipment, range. Sigona, they need a range. Windsor, there are certain things to do, the quality of the course. So those ones, once they have that ready, they'll be able to. We will be able to have the events in those areas. The other place which we have never taken the European Tour staging team is Vipingo, and that's the other place which is a potential host for the Kenya Open in future. Actually,
the Ladies European Tour was played at Vipingo,
and it is going to be played again this year in another 2 weeks. Mid-February. Yeah, so from I think the 8th to the 13th. I can't remember the dates exactly. Yeah, to Vipingo of February.
So that's one to look out for, and definitely we'll give you that story. Now this year's event is going to be held at Muthaiga.
Yes.
What was the choice of moving it to Muthaiga?
So we are always trying to expose the different clubs, and as I said, Muthaiga and Karen are the 2 clubs that are really ready to host the event. So after having 3 events, European Tour events at Karen, it was time to move to the next venue. And so that's why we made the decision. It's not that there was something wrong with Karen. It's the fact that we also need to keep moving this event to give other clubs the opportunity to host the event.
Something interesting about Muthaiga people may not know is that the back 9 and the front 9 are separated by Kiambu Road.
Yes.
How's that organizing, considering that this is an event that's made for TV?
Yes. So the one most important thing to do is ensure that, you see, unlike football or rugby, when you have TV coverage for football, you only have one stadium.
Yes.
With golf, you have 18 stadia, and they all have to be somehow linked as the players move from
every hole. Number 1 to number 18 is a stadium by its own.
Exactly. So we have the first 9, hole number 1 to 9, on one side of the road and 10 to 18 on the other side. So it's a challenge for TV. But one of the things that we have to do is ensure that we have a separate bridge for the TV crew and the players, other than the one that they have currently, that they use currently. So we'll have a separate bridge. We've already identified the area where we're going to have the European Tour production TV compound. It's a huge operation. I mean, these guys come with container loads of equipment to be able to cover all the 18 stadia, as we just said. And all these preparations are in place right now. One container alone is actually just cable, which they lay cable all over the coast. So they have TV towers at every green, and yeah, so it's a challenge to have it on two different sides of the road, but we are up to the task.
The other one everyone talks about is, how would I do this? How would I describe this? The agronomy. That's what I was looking for.
Yes.
How do you ensure that the fairways, the greens, even the tee boxes are up to European standards?
That's one very important thing for the European Tour. So they don't take chances on this. And the beauty about hosting this event in Kenya, the European Tour events, is we not only get the exposure. These guys send the top agronomists to come and look at the course. And we have the knowledge being percolated down to our local greenkeepers. And what happens is they come with a list. I mean, they look at the cost. So the European Tour agronomist visited Kenya around October, came up with a list of things that Muthaiga was supposed to do to get ready. Muthaiga have a super team. I mean, they have a very good team, course team that is actually working on that, and they're in constant touch with the European Tour team. And we are all, right now the only thing that was lagging behind was the range. And I'm happy that we have some rains now. They've just planted the grass, laid the grass for the range, which will be, as I mentioned, at the KFS. And it is our hope that it will be ready and settled for the event. But on the course preparation, Muthaiga is up to the task.
Something else I noticed, I think it was 5 or 6 years back, around 20, is that the way greens are on day one, they are not touched again. Explain that concept and what it means.
So here's what happens when we start the tournament, actually the week of the tournament. So Muthaiga hands over the course on the Sunday of the week of the tournament. They hand over the course. So where the greenkeeper is the one who calls the shots and says, what are these green, do this, do the other. It's actually taken up by the European Tour agronomist. He's the one now who develops his schedule for what the course team is going to do. They cut the greens. They do a lot of work, but what tends to happen is they actually don't water the greens as much as we water them on a regular basis. That's what probably you notice. They will not let them dry out, but they actually want the greens to be firm. That is firm and fast. And the grass basically is stressed during that time of the tournament because of the way they actually make sure that it's fast, firm, and that's, I guess, what you're referring to.
Yes.
And they just make sure that the greens are in the condition that you'll find in other parts of the world. And this is what these guys are used to. This is what the players, the international players, are used to. And that's why you see all these backspins. With a shot club, they'll hit the ball onto the green with a lot of backspin. And, those are some of the things that are exciting to watch for our spectators.
Then there is also the factor, what people would call the hole, but you call it the pin position. Yes. I mean, if I was to use my table as a green, I know on day one it will be here. Yes. Day 2 it will be at this point. Day 3 it could be in the middle, and day 4 at another end.
Yes.
How do you change that? How do you market? And the question, at what time do you do it?
So I have had the privilege and honor of training under the European Tour team from 2015 to set up a course for players, and that's exactly the same thing we do on Safari Tour. So basically, if I'm setting up one of the 9s, I come up with a plan. I'll go and look at it and say, okay, this is hole number 18 Muthaiga. I expect the players to be hitting, say, a 5-iron onto the course on day 1. So how do I make it challenging? I think this side will be good. Day 2, this side. And the last day, I want it to be near the spectators. Where are they going to be? So if this is where the grandstand is, I want to have a green where your pen is. And so I come up with a plan based on all the holes, where the spectators are going to be, difficulty, and I'll have, if I'm setting 1 9, I'll have 3 difficult ones, 3 average, and 3 easy. Yeah, so I'll just make sure that I move this around and I have a plan for the entire tournament, so that once I have my plan just before the tournament, then for the pro-am, for example, or for the practice day, then I can put them in the easy position, say in the middle. But if you look at these guys when they're practicing, they usually have an idea where these pin positions are going to be, and they'll go doing this, testing the different places. But what we do is the day before. So, for example, we start on Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday the 3rd. On Wednesday, I'll put the pin position for Thursday. Yeah. So I go and mark it at the end of the day on Wednesday. And I have my list and I have the pin positions on a piece of paper, and these guys then, the greenkeepers, go around and look for those pin positions, cut the hole in that position. And the next day in the morning, I do the same for Friday. I just go and verify that they've cut the hole in the right position and mark for the next day. So that's basically some of the things that we do when you're setting up the course. It's not just the holes, it's also the tees. Can move back and forth a bit, make sure that the teeing area is good enough, looking at what distance are they hitting. If it's a par 3, I'll have to tell the TV guys what the distance is. What distances are they having on the different holes, especially the drivable holes. So it's a lot of work that goes, the technical work that goes into setting up the course.
In golf, something I realized is that there is something that looks, a bit like a telescope or binoculars, which they use to, measure the yardage. Is that allowed now?
So the distance measuring devices are allowed now for amateur events. And for the professional events, like the European Tour events, these guys get a book. They get a book with the yardages. So they're actually not allowed to have the rangefinders. So those rangefinders basically give you the exact distance from where you are to, say, the hole, the flag. It actually, gets a distance to the flag. So for the European Tour events, they're not allowed. But for the Safari Tour, because we don't have these books, and we realize we are actually not helping our players by not having the rangefinder and the book, and not having the book as well. So we allow them to use the rangefinders so that they can actually tell the exact distance from where they are, so they know what club to play.
Now, the arrangements for these years, Magical Kenya Open, what does the playbook read?
So one of the things that we are very fortunate is with the way things are going right now, with the vaccination levels that we have in the country, we are fortunate that we are currently allowed to have spectators. So we expect to have spectators. We expect to have the full field from the European Tour. So the full tournament like we had in 2019 with spectators, players, all that. That's what we are hoping to get for the 2022 event. Now, one of the things, of course, we have realized is the spectators also want a good time on the course. So we also have arrangements for that, but those will be announcing a bit later. But in terms of preparation, we are looking at 156, the full complement of players. The officials were in constant touch with the European Tour. COVID team, we are in touch with them. Now, we will not have, we're not calling it a bubble this time, but we will have restrictions. So players and officials will still be staying in a hotel. And there will be areas for players and officials that nobody else outside that group will be allowed. We will still have tests for our, players and officials. We will liaise with the Ministry of Health to find out what we need to allow our spectators in. Will it be a vaccination certificate like they said, or will it be what will it be at that particular point? But at this point we haven't received those details, and we hope that we shall have this clarity in another week or two, and we shall start communicating the same to all the public, basically.
What are some of the confirmations of entries that you may have had so far, people who may be interested in coming to play?
So far, we don't know. What usually happens, it's a bit early right now, what usually happens is they have their top-ranked players. Those get the first right of refusal. But here's the thing, with the prize pass going up and the fact that there's no clash, remember in the past, our tournament has always been at the same time with the Players' Championship in the US.
Yes.
So this time it's at a different time slot. With the prize pass up, a different time slot, timing for our tournament, it's very likely that we'll have a very strong field. Just like we did last year with the 2 events back to back, we got a good field. I mean, some of the players that we had, would typically not come for our events. But we are actually very optimistic that we'll have a very strong field. But we get to know this about 3 or so weeks to the event. That's when they start putting in their names. Yeah.
The conversations around it, what are they? What is it that you do to get reach out to the Kenyan public outside of the golfing circles?
The publicity, basically, apart from the Kenyan public, we are also very much in touch with our neighbors, the East African unions, and those are our first point of call. The rest of the African countries, basically, if you look at what happens with international events, European Tour events, the attraction is usually more on TV, and some people will follow some players and go around with them. But for the region, basically, we are talking to Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and we are expecting to get spectators from those areas as well. And, as we said, it'll be live on TV. We expect to have, all 4 days covered, and, get that information or the live coverage outside to everybody live from day one.
The legacy project that can be put around the Safari Tour, which one would it be when it comes overall to the growth? Because we saw that, I think it was at Sigona, the event was won by an amateur. We've seen Mutahi Kibugo and Mohit Medirata, young golfers, turning pro. What is it that can be felt in the long term?
So here's the thing, if you don't give players continuity, they sort of drop off and start looking at other things. And the one thing that we said, and the strategy the Kenya Open Golf Limited took to encourage growth in the game, yes, we have very good players like Indiza, but at 50, and Jacob Okello at 50, they probably at the tail end of their careers. we need to be looking at the youngsters. And that's why we actually put a condition that we allow amateurs, not just boys, but girls as well. So by the Safari Tour, that's the other difference with other tours. It's unisex. I mean, we have ladies as well who play. So we say we want, apart from the pros, we want young players. And the amateurs are either 24 years or under, and they enter through the KGU, or the other thing is the club is allowed, the hosting club is allowed one exemption, and the captain of the hosting club is allowed to give us one name of a person who doesn't fall in that age category, who will then participate in that tournament. So with that, we've seen a lot of youngsters coming and playing. In fact, I remember one time at Muthaiga 2 years ago, Njoroge Kibugu, one of the top amateurs, came to me. He was in tears when he was told that he couldn't get to play because his handicap was higher than what we had stipulated. And he asked me, if I go and play well today and get chopped, can I play in the tournament? And I told him, yes. If you get your handicap chopped, we'll be able to play.
All right. Yeah. You've had it. Vincent Wang'ombe, the general manager of the Kenya Open Golf Limited, speaking to us about the magical Kenya Open and the Safari Tour. The Safari Tour resumes at Limuru this weekend till Wednesday, and the magical Kenya Open, the 3rd to the 6th of March at the Muthaiga Golf Club. Well, thank you very much, Vincent. We'll be getting to another conversation. Let us now take a short break, and when we come back, we get into more sporting conversations.